Go online and study the budget.
You look at the budget, it was never put in the budget. That's why it doesn't count.
Bush and Clinton are just as bad. Bush and Clinton were just as bad, but I'm saying he's no better, and he's exacerbated the problem. But forget about that because I don't want to get into the politics. What I want to say is we funded that with China, so we now owe a mortal enemy of democracy. The last major communist country left that still believes in that system. We now owe them. And if you talk to the people on the street, even though they like the economic opportunity, a lot of them still believe in socialism, in the principles of socialism, because they were trained to. So, and they sound really good on the surface. They just don't work for the human nature. But forget about all of that. Forget about all of that. To ship a tomato here from China literally takes the carbon footprint bigger than your house. The steamship that it comes over on burns tons of gallons of oil.
Wouldn't it follow that carbon footprint equals dollar signs, doesn't it?
It does ultimately, but it's offset because of the subsidies that the different countries give to the different industries. So the subsidies cover the real cost. For example, in our country, one of the things that's going really, really bad in our country is water. Bottled water is making it much worse because bottled water is a disaster for the environment. Not good for your health either. Most bottled water is extremely unhealthy. The carbon footprint of water is worse than gasoline. And it actually costs much more than gasoline to drink water out of a bottle.
Plastic bottles.
The plastic bottles, yeah. Most plastic bottles are made in China, most of them. And they're shipped here by ships. And sometimes they're filled in places like Fiji. Fiji now has their own bottling plant, but Fiji bottles used to be filled by bottles shipped over from China. Then they're flown another 5,000 miles, or shipped another 5,000 miles to California, where they get distributed on trucks that can be driving thousands of miles, burning rubber and oil products. The factories that run those things that make those bottles in China are spewing tons and tons and tons of CO2 into the air. So every bottle, we're working on an article on this actually, but every bottle of you drink is costing you an arm and a leg in many, many ways, and it's destroying the planet. We're also destroying the aquifers that we're using to pump this water out of the ground. But it's making certain companies really rich. So they like to do that. But forget about all of that. The single biggest thing you can do for the environment, because of all of that, not forget about all of it, the environmental thing is, I want to make 2 points. There are 2 things that you can do as a raw foodist, even if you're only eating half raw or 20% raw. I eat 80% raw. You should shoot for 75% raw. 2 or 3 meals a day, 2 meals plus snacks a day is about 75% raw. So it's not hard to do. A smoothie and a big salad and anything else you want and all raw snacks. And you're 75% raw. That simple. But as a raw foodist and a vegan, there are 2 things you can do that will make more impact on the planet than all the recycling in the world, than owning a Prius or even a fully electric car, than anything else you can do. Having your own organic garden and making 0 garbage won't make as big a difference as being a raw foodist. It reduces your energy footprint, your CO2 footprint on the planet so substantially that John Robbins wrote in the 1980s that just being vegan, not even raw foodist, but a vegan is a lot of raw food because they eat a lot of salad. Just being a vegan makes you pretty much close to a raw foodist. Just being vegan, he said if 10% of the planet ate vegan or increased their vegetarian part of their diet by 10%, he just wanted to raise consciousness enough on the planet so that 10% more vegetarian food is eaten. It would completely transform the environment. He postulated that in the 1980s. And it's still basically true, because if you analyze the mathematics of all the different carbon footprints and realize if you reduce the footprint of eating meat by 10%, it would save more water, more CO2, more oil by eating 10% less meat than anything else you could do just by becoming vegetarian or partially vegetarian. So there are two big things that are going to destroy the planet that we have to worry about right now. Don't worry about China. Don't worry about Bush or Clinton or Barack Obama or any of the politicians. Or don't worry about Iran and the nuclear fuel rods they're going to make. None of that makes any difference compared to global warming, which is actually happening, and genetically modified foods. Both have the potential to destroy the planet before our children have children in the next 30, 40 years. The tipping point is going to be within our lifetimes. It's already going to be hard if we changed right now all at once. To prevent it, it would take 60 years for it to slow down if we stop making carbon right now. So, and here's the reason for that. First of all, global warming. A lot of people think global warming really isn't happening. It is. The reason why it's arguable is because very few people know about global cooling. There's a process called global cooling on the planet. How many people heard of global cooling? One guy. Two guys. It's the opposite of global warming.
Global dimming, right? Global dimming?
Global cooling.
Well, there's global dimming, too.
Global dimming, too. All the airplanes in the air
That's it, global dimming.
create a exhaust in the air that is so profound that it actually blocks some of the sun.
20%.
And so what happens is it cools the planet almost at the same rate that global warming warms the planet. And so what's left over is this 1 degree change in temperature that everybody talks about with global warming. Really, it's about a 2 or 3 degree change, and it would be much more noticeable and discoverable if it wasn't for global cooling. And the only reason they found out about it is after 9/11, they grounded every plane in the world. And all of a sudden, temperatures went up worldwide. And some scientists noted that and did a study and correlated the fact that we have global cooling going on, which offsets some of the global warming.
That's one of the most beautiful days.
Yeah.
Those 3 days, the sky.
Yeah, the sky was clear. Exactly.
It was the bluest you'd ever seen since the
different.
50s.
Yeah.
So I believe in global warming. Yes, some of it is a natural cycle. It's not all due to mankind, but certainly we've exacerbated it to some degree. And to whatever degree we've exacerbated it, it's speeding the process up, and we should probably stop doing it. I think it can destroy life, but not that fast. We can turn it around eventually. Even if things look bad and we lost some coastal cities, most people would survive. What we won't survive is if genetic engineered products get into the market, get into the environment, and get out into the ecosystem. They said genetically modified corn, on the one hand, would not be transferred to other crops. But we're losing monarch butterflies in California because they can't tell the difference. So they eat the genetically modified corn pollen, which is the monarch butterfly's food, and it kills them. They can't metabolize it because it's not really pollen. And then, but the pollen is real enough to actually float into the cornfield next door, a couple of miles down the road, which was an organic farm. It contaminates the organic farm. Some people might consider that negligence on the part of Monsanto. But Monsanto sues the organic farmer for violating their patent. And things are so corrupt in our court system that the genetically modified corn, which illegally went through the air, that wasn't supposed to be able to do that, and destroyed this farmer's income forever. He's no longer can grow organic corn. To make matters worse,